You hesitate longer than other people. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much. Right now, you might be lying still, phone dimmed, room quiet, and there's a small decision sitting on your chest like, wait, something simple, but it doesn't feel simple. And the worst part is not the decision itself. It's the noise around it. The thoughts that keep circling, the imaginary futures, the silent pressure of getting it right. You don't freeze because you're confused. You freeze because you see too much at once. Every option opens 10 doors. And behind each door, there's another version of you. Happy, regretful, relieved, ashamed. You can almost feel all of them at the same time. And somewhere in that crowd of possibilities, you disappear. You've probably been told you're just indecisive, that you should go with your gut, that thinking this much is unnecessary. But no one sees what it's like inside your head at night, how one small choice becomes a courtroom. Evidence replayed, past mistakes called as witnesses, future consequences arguing over your sleep. You don't just choose, you predict, you simulate. You rehearse the aftermath. You imagine explaining your choice to someone who might be disappointed. You imagine regretting it alone. You imagine wishing you had chosen differently when it's already too late. And then you imagine yourself judging yourself for taking too long. So you wait. Waiting feels safer than choosing. At least waiting doesn't lock anything in. But even waiting has a cost. Because while you're waiting, time is still moving. And you feel it, that quiet panic. That sense of falling behind life while standing still. You replay old decisions, don't you? Moments where you chose too fast, or too late, or for the wrong reasons. Those memories don't stay in the past. They show up right when you're trying to decide something new. They whisper, remember what happened last time? Don't mess this up again. So now every decision carries the emotional weight of previous ones. It's never just about tonight, or this message, or this opportunity. It's about who you are, and who you might become if you choose wrong. You don't trust the moment, because you've learned how fragile moments can be. You know how quickly things can turn, how one choice can echo longer than expected. So your mind tries to protect you by thinking more and more and more. But protection slowly turns into paralysis. You start having conversations in your head that never happen. You imagine responses before words are spoken. You feel relief and regret before anything is real. And your body feels tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You're not lazy. You're mentally exhausted. Decision making feels like walking through fog while carrying every possible outcome on your back. Even when you want something, you question it. Why do I want this? Is this real desire or impulse? What if I regret it? And when you don't want something, you still question it. Am I avoiding? Am I afraid? What does this say about me? There's no neutral ground. Every choice feels like a personality test with permanent results. So you delay. You ask for more information. You tell yourself you'll decide tomorrow, but tomorrow brings the same thoughts, just louder. At night, your mind replays the same scenario from different angles. You imagine choosing option A, then living with it for weeks, months, years. Then you rewind. Option B, different pain, different regrets. You don't sleep, you drift. And in those quiet hours, you wonder why something so small feels so heavy. You feel behind other people. They decide. They move. They adjust later. You just before anything even happens. And somewhere along the way, you learn that mistakes are expensive, emotionally, relationally, internally. So now you try to avoid them at all costs, but the cost becomes your peace. You're not afraid of choosing. You're afraid of being trapped by your own choice. Afraid of proving a fear. Afraid of disappointing a future version of yourself. So you keep everything open. And nothing feels settled. There's a subtle grief in that. A quiet mourning for decisions not made. Lives not lived. Words not said. And you carry that too. You wonder if something is wrong with you. Why it's so hard. Why your brain won't just be quiet. But your mind isn't broken, it's vigilant. It learned to scan for danger in places other people don't look. The problem is, not every decision is a threat. But your nervous system doesn't know that. So it reacts anyway. You feel tension in your chest. A tightness when you try to commit. A heaviness when you try to choose. And sometimes you abandon decisions altogether, not because you don't care, but because caring hurts too much. You tell yourself you'll deal with it. layer. But later becomes another layer of guilt. You judge yourself quietly. Why can't I just decide? That voice sounds like it's yours, but it learned its tone somewhere else. Pressure, expectations, moments where you were blamed for choosing wrong. Those moments taught you something, that decisions are dangerous. So now your mind wants certainty before action. But certainty never arrives. And you stay stuck in the space between wanting and acting. There's a loneliness in that space. Because no one else can see it, they see hesitation. They don't see the war. They don't hear the endless internal dialogue. The constant scanning for the least painful path. You don't want the best outcome. You want the safest one. And even that feels unclear. Part 2 begins now. By this point, you're not even tired of deciding. You're tired of thinking about deciding. The decision itself almost fades into the background. What remains is the emotional noise around it. The what-ifs that never resolve. The feeling that no choice will fully protect you. You start noticing how often you second-guess yourself, not just with big things, but with small ones. What to say, when to reply, whether to ask. Each moment becomes a micro-decision loaded with meaning. And because you're always anticipating consequences, you rarely feel present. You're either in the past, reviewing, or in the future, preparing. The present feels unsafe. Too unpredictable, so your mind tries to control it by running ahead. But control comes at a cost. You lose spontaneity, ease, trust in yourself. You stop believing that you'll be okay no matter what you choose. Instead, you believe survival depends on choosing correctly. That's a heavy belief to carry. It makes every option feel like a test you can fail. And when everything feels like a test, avoiding the exam feels reasonable. You tell yourself you need more time, more clarity, more signs. But what you're really waiting for is permission to be imperfect, to choose without guaranteeing the outcome, to trust that you can adapt. But trust feels risky when you've been hurt by your own choices before, so you stay in your head, where at least nothing is final, even if it's exhausting, especially at night. That's when the silence amplifies everything. No distractions, no interruptions, just you and the echo of unfinished decisions. You replay conversations that haven't happened. You imagine explanations you may never give. You try to feel into each outcome. Which one hurts less? Which one you can survive? And you don't realize how much compassion you're withholding from yourself. You judge your hesitation. But you don't see how deeply you're trying to protect yourself from pain. You learn that pain can linger. That regret can be loud. So you hesitate, not because you're weak, but because you remember. There's a moment sometimes when you feel close to choosing, a quiet clarity, a brief calm, and then fear rushes in. What if this is wrong? What if I change? What if I'm stuck? That fear doesn't mean the choice is wrong. It means it matters. But your mind treats importance like danger, so it pulls you back into analysis. You don't. Notice how long you've been holding your breath. Decisions require exhale, but you're always bracing. And bracing makes movement feel impossible. You wonder what it would be like to decide and not look back, to choose and let the outcome unfold. That thought feels both relieving and terrifying, because it means letting go of control. And control has been your shield, even when it hurts, even when it keeps you stuck. You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not failing at life. You're navigating the world with a nervous system that learned to stay alert, that learned to think first, feel later. But right now, as you listen, something softer is happening. You're not deciding anything. You're just being here. And notice how that feels. No outcome, no pressure, just presence. That's the state your mind rarely allows. And yet, it's where you feel the least burdened. You don't need to fix anything tonight. You don't need to choose. Just notice that you exist beyond decisions. You are not the sum of your choices. You are the one who survives them. And that's something your mind forgets when it's busy predicting pain. There will be decisions you regret. That's unavoidable. But there will also be moments of resilience you haven't imagined yet. Strength that appears after the choice, not before, right now. You don't need answers. You need rest from the noise. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you face a decision, you'll remember this feeling, the quiet, the softness, the understanding that you don't have to solve your entire future at once. Sometimes choosing isn't about certainty. It's about allowing life to move again. And tonight, you can let yourself be still. No decision required, just breathing, just existing, and letting that be enough.